Hey YouTube, it's Taki with TaqiTech. This is episode 21 of our complex timesheet series. In this episode, we are going to talk about printing time values to column G, printing the out times. And just to give you a visual representation here, let me bring the spreadsheet in real quick. Here we go. And basically, this is what we're talking about here. Getting this row here, kind of getting us closer to Model 6, okay? And one of the things I wanted to mention is I am using a test format. I have any changes that I make here, I'll go back and save it as my real file. So I'm operating with two files. The second file is a test file. And the reason for that is, whenever you print something using VBA or whenever you change in your spreadsheet, there's no undo. No undo up here. So once you make those changes, they're permanent, and you could really wreck your spreadsheet. And if you haven't backed it up, if you're not working on a test spreadsheet, you could lose some very important work. The second thing I want to mention is you notice that we'll say this daily tracker down here, right here. This is been moved down. This has been moved down, and that is because I started to run out of room up here when it was up here. And that's kind of one of the reasons I said when we start working on our clear part of this, it's going to be a little bit more complex. It's going to move down and move back up, depending on how many values we need, how many rows we need to display within these columns. So let's get to the code here. Basically, there's this two new integers that I introduced into that subroutine within that module. I have a row counter. It's an integer. Basically, it just keeps track of what row I'm printing on, and next range, and that's a string. And basically, the next range equals G2. So that's basically saying, okay, this is the specific cell that I need to print in, and it's a string, so that I could use this G here. And then you'll see how I kind of play with that later on when we get into the code. So here we have the do loop again. We talked about all of this in our last video of episode 20. Wanted to focus on minutes to print because we're actually going to use that here. Here's minutes to print again. And let's just look at the other lines of code here that will actually result in this printing out. It's outside of the if block. And basically what I say is, okay, so next range is G2. So let's go take a look at the spreadsheet real quick. So here's G2 right here. Go back here. So G2 equals, and then I talk about that subroutine, get new start time. And that basically, that subroutine, it's actually a function because it returns a value. We send it the minutes we want to print and the start time. And if you remember, we talked about, should have probably put it in this video. It might have made a little bit more sense then, but there's a start time variable that we have in the code that has 6 a.m. in it right here. So when we say get new start time and we pass in the 148 minutes to that start time, then we get our, or I forgot how many minutes it was, but then we get our 8:48 a.m. when we run that function. Then we save it. Now we say, okay, now we're going to say that it's no longer 6 a.m. Now it's going to be 8:48. So the next time we run through this, we're going to be adding the next minutes down and adding them to the 8:48. If it doesn't make sense, it will probably make sense when we run through the actual code. We increase our row counter by 1 because the next time we go around, we're going to be printing on the next row, which will be 3. And then we change that next range. It won't be G2 anymore. It's going to be, this is 3. It'll be G3. That's a string. It has a letter G in it, and the integer gets converted into the second part of the string and concatenated with that G to form that G3. And then we end our do loop. So let's run it. So here's the code right here. It might look a little bit different just because I have some other things going on, and actually here it is here, and you can see I have a lot going on here. We start talking about printing H, column H, and that will be in the next video. Okay, so let's go to our main module and let's run it. All right, so we should have, it should be clear now. We look here, it's clear. All you see is the 6 a.m. and it's 8 down there. I wonder where that's coming from. Okay. And all right, so we're going to run our, I'm just going to hit play up here and we're going to run through it first time around. And then we see the 8:48, perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for here. And actually, I'm going to put a stop here. All right, so now we're saying G3, like I talked about before. So that next range is G3. Could actually maximize this. Well, I could have just left that there. G3, and that's going to equal, so we're setting 72 minutes to 8:48. And we're going to, here's that function that I talked about. And we're going to get back, and basically all we're using inside that function is the date add, this is the real Excel function. But basically this is just my way of calling it to make it a little bit more straightforward for me. So we get a 10 a.m. So we put that in our new start time, and we've already printed 10 a.m. should be right below 8:48. There it is. Okay. So next row counter, so this is going to change from 3 to 4, and the next range is going to change from G3 to G4. Perfect. And as you can see, this is going to happen several times. Let's just run through it one more time. All right. So now we're going to say we're going to call our get new string. We're going to be adding 30 minutes to 10 a.m. So that's going to give us 10:30. There's 10:30. New start time is 10:30. 5. Now this is going to change to G5. Okay, and so the first one was 10:30. And now we're going to be adding 60 minutes on to 10:30. And we're going to hit F8. I'm just going to hit, I will step through it a couple more times. So it'll give us 11:30. New time is 11:30. This will increment to 6, and this will be now G6. Okay. I'm just gonna show you guys. So we got 10:30 and 11:30. 10:30, 11:30. All right, awesome. So let's just go ahead and run it. Take this stop off and just keep running it. I've hit it a couple times, so you can see that the times just keep coming down here. Keep coming down. Okay, now we're done. All right, the problem that we can see right off the bat is, okay, well, it's supposed to be 2:42 and it's 2 o'clock. Well, guess what? We didn't count the breaks. There's your 42 minutes right there. So actually this is correct, and it kind of threw me for a loop for a couple minutes. And let's just take a look at how this outlooks compared to, I'm going to actually copy this, compared to Model 6. I'm just going to put it right here. And we'll just, so here's our 8:48. Here's our 10. Okay, now we can see, well, okay, we're supposed to take the 30-minute break and everything kind of gets messed up from there. We do get a 1:18 again, but we get at 2 o'clock, but things aren't looking right. Maybe they will once and I could kind of go in here and we could kind of piece it together and see whether or not things look more correct when we actually get the breaks in there. So you can see we have 11 rows here. I'm going to fix Model 6. So we'll see how things look once we start printing that G and G column. And we start printing the G column. Is that the name of this episode? Let's take a look. Is this printing the G column? Let's see. Oh yeah. Well, I made a mistake there. It's actually F column. And the next episode, we'll print the G column and we'll take a look at and start incorporating those breaks and see how closely we get to our model and see what additional steps we need to take. Oh, that's interesting. But until next time, take it easy. Thank you so much for watching. I don't think I'm going to re-record it. So anytime you heard, yeah, well, I'll just put a disclaimer at the beginning or something. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, take it easy.